So, hi everyone. I am Lynne Constantine, and I'm here with three wonderful guests on Thriller Talk Thursday. And we are going to start with JT, and she will introduce herself, and we'll go from there. Welcome.
Hi, good to be here with you guys. I'm JT Ellison. My latest book is Good Girls Lie. It came out right before the world blew up, which I'm very happy I was able to get out, do my tour, get home. It was very good timing. So I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and I am a thriller writer. Best news possible, I finished a new book yesterday, or Monday, day before yesterday, so hooray!
Yay, congratulations.
That's great. I'm Carter Wilson. I'm actually out here in Boulder, Colorado. I am also a thriller novelist, and my last book also has the word girl in it. It's The Dead Girl in 2A. It's my sixth book that's come out, and that came out last year. And actually, I'm about 500 words away from finishing my next book. So I'm scheduling that writing session probably for Saturday night, at least for the first draft. So that's very exciting for me as well.
Wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Amazing. Well done, both of you. And I'm Hannah Mary McKinnon. I'm in Canada, although not originally, but we'll save that for another time. I'm also a thriller writer. My next book, my fourth one, comes out on May 26th. It doesn't have the word girl in it, but it does have the word sister, because it's Sister Dear. So that's what's been going on in my part of the world. I finished book 5 and I have plotted book 6. So it's been a busy time.
Wow, that's awesome. Wonderful. Well, welcome everybody. It's great to have you here. So I'm going to start with a few questions. So JT, you've written many solo books as well as collaborations with Catherine Coulter and some other authors in short form. So I'm just wondering, because I don't know when you're finding the time, number one, to do all this, but I'm assuming you may have to juggle a few projects at once. So are you able to work on, collaboration and a solo effort at the same time? Or what is your process like with writing both?
With doing both, well, the collaboration with Catherine has ended, and it's fascinating to me. I don't have kids. My responsibility is to me the work and keeping my husband's underwear clean. That's the rules, right? So it's not that hard to juggle. It's not that hard to do multiple projects. I try to stay creatively inside one box at a time. But there are times, I used to do 2 books a year. Well, I've done 2 books a year up until now, which is why the collaboration with Catherine ended, and I suddenly had a year to finish a book. And guess what? It took a whole year to finish the book. So,
yeah.
The more pressure that I'm under, I perform better. The more I have to do.
If you have a year, it's going to take a year, essentially, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
If I've got 4 months, it's going to take 4 months. If I've got 6, it's going to take 6. So I learned that about myself. I did not know that. So that's going to change a little bit about what I'm doing going forward as far as making sure I have multiple projects to work on.
Exactly. Maybe 3 months, right? 4 books a year.
No. No, I want to go back to 2. 2 a year. That's a good pace. That's a good, comfortable, collaborative pace. What about you? I mean, how do you guys do? You're doing multiple projects as well, collaborating and solo. How do you do that?
Yeah, I'm my sister and I collaborate as Liv, and then I'm doing my own under Elsie Shaw. So I've done the 2 book a year for 2 years now, and it is a little grueling because, the one thing with the collaboration is, you've got half the work. Even though you do and you don't, you still sort of have the whole thing. But obviously, that helps with the timing.
Right.
But it is grueling. And as you've said, when you have to get it done in a certain amount of time, you just do. But at what cost? So I don't know. I can only do one at a time as well. I can do edits maybe on one book while I'm creating another book, but there's no way I can be creatively developing 2 things because I have to be in the story at the time. So I don't know. The one I write as Elsie Shaw is a series, so there may be a little more breathing room because we do want to do the 1 book a year for Liv. So it's evolving, and same thing. My kids are grown, and my husband does his own laundry, so I don't have to worry about that.
Oh, bonus.
So gonna go over to Carter now. Your last book, The Dead Girl in 2A, which I loved, it reminded me a lot of Dean Koontz, as you know, I had said to you. And one of the themes in the book is exploring how far science goes and how sometimes science can, go too far with catastrophic results. And I'm just wondering, when you're writing your books, do they all have an intentional sort of underlying theme or message, or does it just come about organically depending on the story?
Yeah, definitely more organic. I never set out to have a message in my book. I never even know what my books are about. I don't plot. I've tried to outline, I can't. So I just start off with an opening scene that I think is weird and crazy and creepy, and it just pops in my head, and then I spend the rest of the book trying to figure it out. And the only thing I really knew for sure on Dead Girl in 2A is I wanted to write about memory. I'm fascinated by memory. And so as about halfway through the book, I started to realize that there was science and technology that were going to be a component of what was happening. So I didn't even know about that. But I think that message still kind of comes out at the end, because you start to realize, like, oh, this is what all this means. So maybe it's your subconscious at work. But yeah, I never set out with a message, because I feel like, that's not really what's interesting to me, but the message sometimes comes out anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely did in that. Right. And then I wanted to ask Hannah Mary, your books have a lot of family drama, relationships, which is obviously relatable to all of us because we're all part of the family system. And it seems as though regret and sense of regret seems to be a theme as well. And I'm just wondering what draws you to that, to explore these kinds of themes, and how does your path go in that direction?
Well, I think with my very first book, which was a rom-com called Time After Time, then I moved to thrillers, but it was because I was not in a good place. We'd moved to Canada. I'd started up my own business and it failed. I'd given up a really high-flying job, CEO of an IT recruitment company in Europe, and I felt really lost. And I was wondering whether I'd made the right decision to move to Canada, and very, very woe is me, And I think that filtered through it did filter into the first book. But then I switched to the dark side of suspense, and interestingly, as I became happier and happier and sorted myself out, my books became darker. So if you see another rom-com from me, maybe something's happened in my private life. I don't know, but I think. Yes, I think there are a lot of people who walk around with a lot of regret and what ifs. And I think there's something very compelling about that. And because there are two ways that you can handle it. You can either look to the past and be full of regret and wish you'd done everything differently, or you can use that and look forward and say, well, I'm going to make a change from now.
Right.
And the best way to illustrate that, I had someone close to me got divorced, and I said to her, how do you feel about throwing the last 20 years, she'd been married for 20 years, of your life away? And she said, no, Hannah, you don't get it. I'm not throwing the last 20 years away. They're done, they're gone, they're behind me. There's nothing I can do about those. What I don't want to throw away is the next 20. And that was very eye-opening to me. So yeah, that's why I just like those stories, to see how people handle the different situations.
I think it's fascinating. And I think all of us are drawn to that. So as thriller writers, I think we all do have a tendency to go to dark places. And I was wondering if for each of you, this is for discussion, are there any subjects or places that you won't go, that you just draw the line and say, I'm not going to write about that? Or is anything pretty much open game? Whoever wants to jump in, we can talk about that.
Well, I'll say that my books started out extremely dark, to the point that I was borderline considered a horror writer, and they've progressively moved towards psychological thriller, towards the less showing of brutal acts and just knowing that they happened. That being said, there are some things and in my personal life, I'm very squeamish. There's a lot of stuff on TV that I can't watch that. A lot of certain types of books I can't read. Certainly any kind of rape or child abuse, even though they've been implied in some of my books before, I couldn't. I wouldn't want to write an explicit scene about that. So those are probably, and any kind of misogynistic kind of abuse or torture, like I wouldn't go there. But everything else, I mean, I think it's all fair game. It's just I personally
Right.
don't have any interest in doing it.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. The graphic stuff, I mean, people die in my books, but it does happen on the page, but it's not lots of blood and guts and gore. So that's one thing I'm a bit squeamish for that. And I will not read or write about cults, ever.
Really?
I had a friend of, why? A friend of mine was murdered by his dad, who was a cult leader. And that's just not something I just can't read or write about it ever. If I see something that starts going in a culty direction, I just shut down. I can't handle it.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
How about you, JC?
I don't know. I started off really dark, and I've been getting progressively lighter on the violence scale, but darker on the psychological impact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which, I think is way more interesting to me than watching blood fly across the screen. I want to see what's happening inside your head, not inside your veins.
I agree. And, and it's interesting, Carter, you were saying you don't watch a lot. I do watch a lot of crime drama, and I am drawn to that. However, I don't want to see, again, the psychological impact and the aftermath is interesting to me. And there was a show, I won't even mention it, was in case someone likes it, but they did show, it was a child that was, had been murdered. And the show was terrific, but they show the body with all the blood. And I thought it just, I'm not saying it was gratuitous, maybe TV is moving a bit in that direction, but I don't want to see that. I think it's enough to know, right, that's horrible enough to know something like that has happened without being confronted with everything. And there is a really fine line, but then again, there are people who do write that way, and people like to read that too. So I know that there's a spectrum in that. There's nothing wrong with that, obviously, but it is, I guess it's just a personal opinion. And I know you talk about misogyny, like in one of our books, and I won't say, so not to give any spoilers, there is a man who does some things that are not very nice. And there are a lot of, there's this element, and there's a group of people who that really bothers and will not, they'll write a review that, oh, it wasn't necessary, but you have to show some of it. So I think it's a fine line, right? How much can you show? We're not writing children's books. We're not writing G-rated books necessarily, but the spectrum is a very delicate balance, I think. I don't know.
It's interesting to say that. There's no place I won't go. I mean, I have no, I go where the story takes me. I go where the characters take me. If the character does something horrific, then I'm going to go there with them. I can't kill a cat. I accidentally killed a dog in the opening of my debut novel, and it was an accident. It wasn't like a vicious kind of thing.
Right.
Man, I got taken to task for that. So, I've learned, don't kill animals.
Right. Yes, exactly.
And I don't like to read about that. I mean, there was a book I remember not too long ago that the cat had, there's two actually, that the cat got hurt in the book and the cat was not tended to immediately. And that just, it tore me up. I almost threw the book across the room. So,
Yeah, I think it's violence and sex are the same, right? In terms of you don't have to go there too often so that when you do, it's meaningful and it's impactful. And the readers will think your whole book is about violence. If you have one really effective violent scene, they think that there's murders that happen all throughout the book. You're like, no, 2 people died in my book, but they have this image of this really powerful scene. And so that's more interesting to me. And you do get feedback from your readers, and you start to realize, like, okay, let me finesse this a little bit to be a little bit more implied about things rather. And I actually, in my upcoming book, I actually do kill a dog. It's a dog nobody knows, and it happens off scene. It's just something that happened to make a statement. So, but I was worried about it, but I think it's going to be okay.
I had in the network, there's a dog that's same thing, off screen, kind of off screen. It's a flashback of a character whose father did that to him, and it was, a horrible thing. And I haven't heard too much about it, but again, it is squished, but they're like, how that's such a horrible villain, somebody that would do that. Sometimes that's what you need, right, to show. First, I thought you were going to say it was a dog nobody liked, Carter. Sounds like.
I thought you were going there as well, yeah.
The dog was the villain. I mean, come
It's
on.
an annoying dog.
Dog
had
was
it come.
bad. He's a bad dog. Bad dog.
Yeah,
Who's not a good boy?
right. Oh my gosh, too funny. So, talking about writing and spectrums, I was just curious, you know, we're always asked what's the best writing advice you've ever gotten, but I'd like to know what the worst advice is that you've ever gotten.
Oh, write what you know.
No.
Which, you know, in my books, I have people dying. I have all kinds of stuff going on that I have limited or no experience about. You know, if I wrote what I know, then I'd be writing about, okay, Switzerland, the UK, Canada, and IT recruitment. I mean, no one's going to read that. So, unless I'm writing a travel book, maybe. So that is probably the worst. Write what you know is no. I'd like to use my imagination, please, and write about what I don't know.
That's a good one. I agree with that. What about you guys?
I'm trying to think. I mean, I've had like book specific things that, like, an editor. Okay, well, I had an editor talk me out of an ending for a book, and I respected her and I respected her vision for the book, and I did it, and it just, I knew it was not the right thing to do. And when the book landed, there were problems with the ending. And I heard from a lot of readers that they didn't like the way it ended and it was confusing to them and all of that. So when we re-released it in paperback, they let me change it and put the original ending back. And the response has been overwhelming. So I have learned to stick to my guns. If somebody, you know, even if they think that this is the right thing to do and I don't, and in my gut I know, don't do it, I'll never do that again. I'd rather take the risk.
I'm amazed that they let you change it in the paperback.
How fantastic is that? I mean, that's, you know, this is, you know, we're all in business. We're all trying to make this work and make it right. And they were more than willing to try.
So I guess, did they change the ebook too then? Yeah. Wow.
Isn't that great?
That is great.
Yeah.
That is
So
great.
don't let somebody talk you out of, I mean, I had just a word that an editor talked me into changing a word, and it was just wrong. And so when we, you know, repackaged the last time, I had him change that word back, and now everything works. You know, it's just weird little things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I started writing 17 years ago, and I started without any kind of background in writing. I had gone to business school, you know, so I really, really didn't know what I was doing. And so after I wrote my first manuscript, I started reading books about writing. And I think I got caught up a little bit in the whole, like, you know, this is how you should storyboard and this is how you should outline. And I tried to do all that, and I realized I don't work that way at all. So, you know, when people tell you you need to, like, do it this way, you got to just listen to yourself. And what I've realized over the years is, you know, somebody asked me the other day, like, who do you write for? Who's your audience? I'm like, I write for me. Like, I write to totally entertain and amuse myself. And, you know, I have a market in mind, but I'm not trying to do things for them. I'm trying to just be happy and find my way along a book as I go along, and I have no idea where it's going to go. That to me is what's exciting. So anyone who tries to convince you against what is natural, because there are people who plot and they're perfect at it. Yeah, and I have such respect for that. But, you know, that'd be like someone telling you, yeah, don't plot, just write from the seat of your pants. And it just doesn't work. So you really have to listen to yourself, to JT's point. And I would also say to JT's point, like, there are editors, you have to know who to trust, because you go to a critique group and some people say, I don't like this, I don't like that. But then my editor, you know, I agree with probably 95% of what she says. I'm like, yeah, totally, this makes sense. So it is about really developing that voice with other people as well.
That's such a good point, because you can have two editors who are great editors, but they have a completely different take on it. And we've had that experience ourselves when working with the freelance editor and then handing it in to our publishing editor. And it's not that, you know, both have good points, but sometimes they're conflicting and you don't really know which way to go. And I think, to your point, JT, there are times that you have to go by the strength of your convictions, because no matter what, I mean, I know that we know our characters better than anyone as the author.
Right.
That's not to say that also we sometimes are too close to our characters for our story, and that's why the editor can come in and say, well, you may know this, but you haven't let the reader know, or this isn't working. So there's definitely a partnership there and a synergy. But I do think, and I think as earlier writers, or at least for me, this was the case, I had a tendency where you think you have to take everything that they say, right? Because, oh, well, they're the expert. And then you learn as you go along when to kind of dig your heels in, right? And when to say, okay, I'll hear. But how do you feel when you get those first edits? Are you, I know, right?
What the hell is wrong with this person?
Right.
Right. Just go. Oh no, it's awful. I mean, that first blush of it's not perfect. What? Of course it's perfect. Yeah, usually I don't respond right away. I always try to give myself another, just, a day and a half to think it through. I say thank you. And, every single time what I don't like is what she's right about.
I tend to hate that. I know. It's the same thing, right? I mean, I would call my agent and be like, did you see this? And I would unload, and she would listen, and, okay, just take some time. And then, and Valerie and I talking, and then a day or two later, yeah, that's true. I mean,
no, they're always right. I mean, they're 99.9% of the time they're right.
They are.
0.1% you're right.
Yes. Knowing that one, yeah, right. It's just knowing what that 1% is. That's really true. Oh my gosh, too funny. So what would you say, do you, I don't know if anybody of you have any writing quirks, but is there anything that you would say that you do that would consider a quirk or different or unique about your writing style? Or
style, no, but I have to have a clean desk.
Oh, really?
Tidy desk. Yeah, and I've been like that before in my previous career. If my desk is cluttered, my mind gets muddled and I can't focus. So I need to have it not obsessively tidy, but it needs to be tidy, because that way I know and I need to know where I'm at with everything else that's going on. So I've probably got a lists of things I've got to do somewhere, but
I'm sensing that in here, right? You've got, because you're the outliner, you want to everything in its place. Okay, so that goes. So does that mean, Carter, that you can have a messy desk since you're?
Oh, I'm the least messy person you will ever meet.
Oh, okay.
To a fault. But I have a routine. I write mostly at night or in the late afternoons, like 5 o'clock. I make myself a vodka gimlet, and I go to my favorite chair and I listen to thunderstorms. I have this whole playlist of different thunderstorms, and I have to have it relatively loud, and I write while listening to thunderstorms. So it just, and it just totally soothes me. I can't listen to anything with words or anything like that, but just nature sounds, but mostly just hearing thunder. The rolling thunder, it soothes me, and I can just disappear into the story. I mean, the vodka helps too.
I won't listen to music either unless it's instrumental. So I have the soundtrack for Tomb Raider, the game, the first one, because they re-recorded it. So I have that on very low. But if there are words, if there are lyrics, I can't work, because then I'm listening to the lyrics. So that must be the same with your thunderstorms. That's fascinating.
Yeah, Spotify's got tons of thunderstorms.
Wow.
I like thunderstorms too. I use on YouTube, they've got the ancient library it's kind of a screensaver, so things are moving, but you can put it on the TV and listen to it. And there's one that you can hear somebody writing with a pen, and there's a thunderstorm and a crackling fire, and it's like the perfect, most background ambient noise. But I will tell you, if I'm stuck, every book that I write has a playlist of songs that, inspired thoughts or words, whatever. I always get stuck, and then I will turn that on and listen and write and have words and have that. It engages a different part of your brain. And I can sometimes just break free doing that. Really, really weird.
So when you say every book has a playlist, does the playlist precede the book or comes from the book? How does that?
It precedes. It precedes and is going on as I'm doing it. I'll hear something and and oh, this is perfect for the book. But most of the time there's several songs on the playlist before I start writing.
Wow.
Sure.
Wow.
I like the title first too. I have to have a title or else.
Oh. And does your publisher let you keep the title, or does that get changed?
I would say 75% of the time they stay the same.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now remember, I've written 25 books, so I mean that's
Yeah.
So probably that's about the right ratio.
That's so interesting. So do the songs from the playlist relate to the characters of the story, or both?
Both character, story, setting, all of it.
I like that. That's really something to think about, and that's interesting.
I'll send you a link. It's cool.
Yeah, please do. That's pretty cool. Nice. Yeah, I find if I get stuck, like walking helps me a lot. I'll just go take a walk, and then it'll give me an idea, and I can work through it. Or sometimes it'll come to me in the middle of the night if I'm sleeping and I'm working out a plot problem. But but I don't listen to thunder or anything. Just a little classical music sometimes, and that's about it. Interesting. So, Carter, you start at night. So, how many hours do you work at night?
Well, so I have a full-time job in addition to writing. So I run a consultancy for the hotel industry, which you can imagine is pretty interesting at the moment. So I do a lot, and that's my next webinar that I'm getting on. So my goal is 500 words a day. So I don't collaborate. I don't work on 2 projects at once. My goal is a book a year, 9 months to write it and a month and a half maybe to rewrite it a few times. And then I'm usually doing edits on something that's coming out at the same time. So I usually have to stop for several weeks to do that. So yeah, I can get 500 words done in 30 minutes if I know what I'm doing, but most of the time I don't. So it takes me an hour, hour and a half, and then I'm done.
That's great though, but consistency. I mean, a lot of people,
7 days a week.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people working. I think most of us, I was working full time before I was able to get into writing. And I think that's the thing, you have the discipline, right? And
totally, you develop the muscle, and most people fail at writing because they don't ever finish anything. They're trying so hard for it to be perfect, and it's just that it won't ever be perfect. Just finish it, and then because the real magic is in the editing anyway. But it's just building that muscle. It's like working out every day. You'll get stronger, you'll get better, it becomes easier. But people just don't put in the time.
That's true. And what about you, JT? What is your schedule like typically?
I am an afternoon writer as well. I'm kind of a night owl, so I have to force myself to go to bed, and I sleep a little bit, sleep in the morning. And I mean, most people have had lives before I get up. It's really sad. I get up, I do business stuff. I, handle email, anything that comes up. And then I like to start writing around 10. I'd like to get a little bit done in the morning and then have lunch and then really set myself to it in the afternoon. And I always go back and edit what I wrote the day before just to kind of get myself in the flow. And sometimes I'll go back, I kind of write in waves. Go back a little bit and then move forward, back and move forward. And I shoot for 1,000 words a day, 5 days a week. And that works. It has worked. But I hit my groove like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. That's when I really get going.
Wow. And what about you,
Hannah? So it depends on the stage of the book. So I'm generally, the kids, non-COVID days, are up and out at 7:30 in the morning and back at 3:30. So that's my window. So generally I work out for an hour in the morning because otherwise I won't bother. I know this, just get it done. And then I'll write until about 3:30 when they come home. And then after dinner again, if I'm editing, all bets are off, and I'm just, the whole day, evenings, nights, weekends, the whole time. But when I'm writing my very first, I call it a skeleton draft. So it's rough and quick and dirty and crap, frankly.
Right.
And it's 2,000 words a day. So I get it done in about 6 weeks. And then the editing starts. So that's how I work. Get something really rough down on the page, tell myself the story, and then edit. Because that way I'll know whether the plot that I've done, the outline, whether it works or not.
Right. Makes sense. That makes sense. And I almost feel too, like when I don't know how you guys feel, but you get so into the flow. And then when you're doing editing or you have to take a break in between projects, then I'm always nervous about starting again. Like, right. It's so easy when you haven't taken a break and you're writing every day. So for now, we just handed our drafted number 5 in. And so we're waiting to get those, yeah, I know, those edits back, and so we're not writing anything. We're plotting a little bit the next book, but we're not actually doing any writing right now. And I start to get nervous, almost like those muscles, Carter, that you're talking about, because I know it'll be fine, but it's always hard when we get back into it to start again and know that you're writing every day. And I'm afraid to stay away from it too long. Do you guys feel that way, or
Yeah, totally. When I finish something and I've turned it in, then I can't wait for more than I can maybe give myself 2 weeks off just for that, but then I'm excited because there's, I won't know what I'm going to write about, but I have a general theme of that's been going on in my head for months, and I'm like, I can't wait to see what that's all about. So, but yeah, but it's always hard at the beginning because I'm like, where do I start?
I
have no idea what this is about. So
that's definitely, that is the hard part. I know. All right. Well, and we're going to wrap up with some 2 truths and a lie. Going to get a little personal now. And the way I think we lost the Facebook Live. I think I'm going to have somebody else on with me to manage that, but we'll stream this and people can, you'll be able to add it to your Facebook. So what we'll do is, I'll ask you to tell 2 truths and a lie. We'll try to guess which it is, and you can say it on here. And then what you want to do is post it on your page, and which is the truth, which is the lie, and people can guess if you'd like, if you want to give a book away or however you want to do it. So we'll start this time with Hannah and see what are your 3 things, and we'll guess.
All right. So my favorite hobby is sewing.
Okay.
I absolutely detest raisins, and I have never taken English literature in my life.
Which is the lie? I think that your favorite hobby is sewing. Is one of my guess. What do you, JT and Carter? What do you
I'm thinking she never took English lit.
You think that's a lie?
I'm going with the raisins.
So we're split all the way. All right.
So one of you is right. So do I say who was right then?
Yes. Who's right? Which is the lie?
You are right, Lynn. The lie is that my favorite hobby is sewing. I am rubbish at it. My grandmother was a seamstress, and she is probably rolling in her grave because I can manage buttons.
Oh, same. Yes. Yeah. I know. Oh, that's too funny. So you do like raisins, and you haven't taken English literature.
That's right. No, no. The truth is, I detest raisins. Yeah. So I hate. That's.
I'm sorry. You hate raisins, and you've not.
Yeah, I do. Raisins are gross. They're like ticks. They're just soft and squishy.
English thing. I have a good friend who's English, and she doesn't like them either. Raisins are delicious.
They're horrible. Ugh. No, I didn't take English literature because I didn't go to school in England. For the most part, I went to school in Switzerland. So, yeah, took German literature, but not English.
Very good. Very funny. All right, JT, what about you? Give us your 3.
Okay, so I spent a night in the United Lounge in Denver in a snowstorm with food poisoning, being attended to by O.J. Simpson and his wife, Nicole.
Wow. Before
she died. Yep. I was arrested in Barcelona, dancing drunk outside of my hotel room. And I met a ghost in New Orleans outside of a vampire bar who looked dead ringer for Louis Farrakhan.
Wow.
I think those all happened. I don't think there's a lie in there.
I'm going to be disappointed that there's a lie. I want them all to be true.
I know. All right, you guys guess first this time.
I'm going to go, the lie is OJ. I think everything else about that was true, but I don't think it was OJ and Nicole. I don't think he would help anybody.
Good point.
I'm going to go with the ghost is a lie because I don't believe in them.
All right, well, we know you were dancing drunk in Barcelona, so we're not even going to go there. I'm sure that one is true. So I'm going to go with the OJ as well.
You're all wrong.
No!
I've never been arrested, and I've never been to Spain.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Right.
That was the easiest one to believe.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that we all thought that.
No, the OJ thing for real. No, it was back, that was the wildest night. I was 13, 14 years old, had food poisoning, and was stuck there overnight in the storm, and they were wonderful. I mean, they took such good care of me. It's amazing. And then he killed her, so. Good job, buddy.
Jeez.
And the ghost story is real.
So you met a ghost? Like an apparition
My
or?
husband was there. It wasn't just me. We
So
were
what
going to
happened?
this bar, and we asked the bartender at the restaurant where it was, and he told us. And he's the one that looked like Louis Farrakhan, just a dead ringer for him. And then we went to the bar, and it was closed. It was supposed to be open, but it was closed and locked. And we're like, okay, what's going on? And the bartender appeared behind us, no footsteps, nothing, and said, "You can't go in there. They will eat you alive." And disappeared.
Oh my gosh. That's horrible.
That's weird.
We got our butts back to the hotel, and I mean, slept with a chair under the door like it's going to stop a ghost. But yeah, I mean, just
Well, I've heard that does stop ghosts sometimes.
totally wigged us out. I mean, this is legit. My husband was there. It was both of us. Freaked me out.
Wow.
I really would have liked to have been drunk in Barcelona, though. That's awesome.
That would be awesome. Maybe not arrested, but okay. Wow, that was a good one. Okay, Carter.
All right. I go out of my way to stay in haunted hotels. I once killed off a major character on a dare. And I once had a villain who literally crucified people.
Wow.
I think you killed off a character on a dare. I can see.
I would believe that. Yeah. I'm going to say that the haunted that you seek out to stay in haunted hotel rooms is the lie. Why would you do that? Why?
Yes, I think you do that, but
I do too.
I think your villain didn't crucify anybody.
The answer is that I did not kill off a main character on a dare. I killed off a main character on a whim. But nobody actually dared me to do it. That's the beauty of writing from the seat of your pants. It's 2/3 of the way in. I'm like, what if this dude just died right now? What happens? What does that mean? And I did it, and it was amazing. It just completely changed the nature of the story for the better, because all of a sudden I had to deal with that. So
chaos theory or something, right?
kind of. Oh, it's really fun.
I thought maybe he just wasn't behaving or something, and you thought, right, that's it, curtains for you.
No, I really liked him.
You like to stay at a haunted place, so maybe he needs to find your ghost, Jason.
Yeah,
I have several places. I have several hotels that I can give you names of because I bump into them all the time.
My go-to is the Stanley Hotel here in Estes Park. I go up once a year for a writing weekend, and they have about 8 rooms that are designated spirited. And yeah, every year I do that.
And have you ever encountered a ghost?
I've had a couple little weird things happen, but nothing major. I've had weird things happen in other parts of my life, but not in hotels.
It sounds like a quote.
That's my epitaph.
I was going to say, or an epitaph. I mean, that would be, I've had weird things happen in part of my life, but not always
Not
in
in
the
hotels.
hotel.
Kind of good. Well, I guess on that note, I think we're going to end. But thank you all so much. And it was great chatting with you. I hope you all stay safe and well. And I hope we're together at a conference sometime soon. So
That would be
Thanks
lovely.
for having us on.
sure.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Take care.
Yeah, thanks. This was
Take care.
awesome.
Thanks. Bye.
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 Bye.